Andrew Tate, trans ally. I know you're thinking, how is that possible? Okay, well, please listen.
My mansion. You'll see when it's done. We'll do an episode of Cribs. I had to get this area here. I bought my neighbor's house. I had to construct a specific area for the Bugatti. Anyway, that's all going to be lit up in Bugatti logos. You broke boys don't know. Listen, I recently posted a question on Twitter asking, would you rather have sex with a transsexual, which is a legitimate 10, or a woman, which is a legitimate 1?
I wish I knew how to do his voice, like, as a bit, you know? It's like English accent by way of Keanu Reeves, by way of learning disability. There's like a mix of stuff here. Well, yeah, it's like a fake British accent, but he does that that quick cutoff to the words he's saying that Keanu Reeves does. He has that like low drone. You know what I'm talking about? And then, of course, there's the learning disability. Yeah, the glottal stop, exactly. But I don't know if I can do all that, man. He's got a really weird voice. You have to be kicked in the head 495 times to get it right. Yeah. Proper brain damage necessary.
And everyone's sitting there clicking woman, 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 because they think it's...
Okay, remember, we got to keep up, okay? We're paying attention to the prompt here. So this is, who would you rather sleep with, a woman who's a 1 out of 10 or a trans woman who's a 10 out of 10? Okay.
They're going to be gay if they do anything else, but they're not actually thinking about the question. I am so smart. I operate on so many levels higher than the average man. You people are not thinking about the question.
Mm-hmm.
When I say a 1 and a 10, I mean Megan Fox with a dick. Mm-hmm. That's the tranny. Mm-hmm. Or Hulk Hogan with a mm-hmm. That's the girl. Mm-hmm. This is the question I'm asking. Megan Fox or Hulk Hogan? Mm-hmm. So you're thinking, well, I don't want to be gay, so I just clicked the girl, the number 1, did it? Fuck Hulk Hogan. Okay, there's he's got mustache and muscles and he's all hairy, big dude, 6'5". It's pretty gay to me. That sounds pretty gay. I don't care if that is gay.
This isn't from that far back. This is from 2021.
Whereas Megan Fox, okay, he's got a but maybe you can like scoot it out the way. I'm still Megan Fox. You know what I'm saying? At least she's small and shit. You can get your hand around her neck, mess her up. You ain't messing up Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan's gonna mess you up. So this is the question I'm asking. You need to operate on a higher plane. Think about this. This is important. This is cultural. This affects the world we now live in. What is straight? What is gay? It's all a big sliding spectrum, isn't it? Because if you're gonna sit here and go, oh no, it's gay to bang Megan Fox, I counter that argument. It's gay to bang Hulk Hogan with a...
Actually, it's funny because, you know, leaving aside the whole rapist, sex trafficking, and la-di-da, you know, getting to the actual point, there's actually an underlying point that's being made here, which I think is really funny. So which one is it? Well, I do think it's funny. Andrew Tate, ass sweat enjoyer, Aiden Ross, was like screeching, there are 2 genders. And meanwhile, back here in 2021, Andrew Tate is like, hey man, listen, sexuality is kind of a spectrum, okay? Think about it. It's very funny. But I feel like, okay, whenever I talk about this, I recognize that my own perspective is really clouded by the fact that I'm, you know, pan. So it's like I'm kind of trying to speak for other people a little bit. But even though I'm a degenerate, I have known straight people. And I feel like there are a couple of statements that I can make about straight guys that are like definitely true, even beside my biases, you know? And that is like, first of all, straight men are obsessed with dicks. Like, they talk about them constantly. They draw them constantly. When you look at heterosexual pornography marketed at straight men, it will often like gratuitously feature the penis. It's not as though the way they frame the porn videos, it's like, well, they kind of try to avoid looking at the guy. They avoid looking at the guy's face a lot. They do not avoid looking at the dick, like even remotely. And I think a lot of that is because there's a kind of innate eroticism to genitalia, if you can believe it. And people actually don't have super strong genital preferences, right? Like, I really don't think they do. I think people, some people do, but I think a lot of people are a lot lighter on the genital preferences than they are on preferences with regards to, like, femininity or masculinity in terms of what they're into. That is to say, like, I think that, as a wise philosopher once put it, if it's between Hulk Hogan with a pussy and Megan Fox with a dick, you know, I mean, I think you know, like, where people would generally trend. And you can see this too, that with like trans women, you know, who haven't had bottom surgery, like it's not like straight guys, or sorry, it's not like gay guys are going after trans women. It's straight guys. Like if you take a look at, like if you ask a trans woman, okay, who's DMing you? It's not bi guys and gay guys. It's bi guys and straight guys, you know? Generally, that's because I think a lot of people, the signifiers they pick up on are just like, okay, like, what are their vibes? Like, do they come across as feminine or masculine, you know? Andrew Tate kind of said that here, right? Vaush, not incorrect. Most people do have a hard gender. No, stop. No hard opinions in chat, okay? I need you guys to really focus, all right? Call upon your inner chakra, all right? I'm not asking how you feel because you're all idiots and you don't know how you feel. I know how you feel, okay? And how I know you feel, the way I know this, okay, is because I've been around straight guys and they're fucking obsessed with dicks, all right? And I'm taking that with me to the bank because I don't need to hear the wannabes in chat talking about how they're the exception, okay? Nah, there's at the very least, like, it's a lot looser than people pretend it is, you know? And this is one of the reasons why, like, oh my God, people don't say it as much anymore. How many times did you hear, not do you hear, because right now it's not as much of a thing, you know, but did you hear, are traps gay? Because that question was centered on like this massive semi-sarcastic bit of internet discourse, the central premise of which effectively being that Johnny Bravo meme, you know, like, you know, if it gets my dick hard, then it's straight, you know? Like, that was the whole "are traps gay" cultural fixation could have only been born out of a culture where people really want to be straight while guys who look like girls. Because that's what a trap is, not trans woman, you know, say whatever. But of course, when they say trap, they mean trans woman, because in reality, traps don't exist. There actually isn't like a whole subset of people who are guys but cross-dress perfectly as women all the time, day to day in their life, specifically to trick straight men. That's not actually a thing. I'm sorry. Sorry if any of you have fantasies that will go unfulfilled as a product of this, you know, this non-existence community. Trans women do exist, though. That's a real thing. And I think you can kind of tell, like with Tate, for example, okay? I want to ask you guys a question and try to follow along with me here, okay? If you had a friend, if you were hanging out with a friend, all right? And the friend, Finster, is the only femboy. I hope you guys know there's like a 99.9% chance that Finster, at the very least, is on estrogen. I'm not saying Finster isn't a guy, but Finster got some smooth skin, and their HRT femboy is a real thing, all right? I'm just saying. Okay, imagine you're hanging out with a friend, okay? The friend's a guy. They're chilling, all right? And they're trying to sell you on something, all right? They turn over to you and they start talking, and they're like, here, we'll put on Andrew Tate here with unmute, so it can be like he's talking to you, okay? And he's like, hey, yo, Bugatti. But also, hey, so if you had a girl, like, and she was like a 10 out of 10, I mean a total smoke show, wouldn't you want to like, it wouldn't be that bad if like, it wouldn't be terrible if you like sucked on her toes a little bit, right? Like if you were to suck on her toes a little bit, like that wouldn't be so bad, right? The person you are talking to, the Andrew Tate, does not, he's obsessed with sucking women's toes. They don't have to be a 10 out of 10. This is not some like reserved interest that he has a very light interest in, okay? This is a life-consuming desire. You understand? So this video of his where he's like, yeah, like, I don't know, if you had like a perfect 10 out of 10 girl with a penis, like, yeah, it wouldn't be like literally the worst thing to, you know, I think that Andrew Tate, like all reactionaries, is probably a chaser to the extent that he even understands sex, which again, we're talking like Ed from Ed, Ed and Eddie level IQ, so it's possible that, you know, he might not fully get it. There's a ton of people like that, man. It's actually so crazy that we're living through this massive like anti-trans reactionary backlash because the amount of like open interest so many people demonstrate in being frank here, like straight guys interested in chicks with penises, it's at like an all-time high. You know what I mean? I feel like there's this really weird dichotomy or like an inconsistency where there are tons of straight guys who are left-leaning, center-leaning, right, like whatever, you know, who, as straight guys often are obsessed with dicks, you know, but they also like women. Not contrary positions these days. They like women with dicks, they don't like trans women. You ever get that feeling? Like, you go look at the incredibly popular, like, Furinari hentai dojins or whatever, and most of the time, those women aren't trans women. They're just magically women with penises. They weren't born men who transitioned. That context is entirely absent in the way it's all structured, you know? They're just women with penises. And then, so the issue here isn't even really with dicks or genitalia or anything. The issue here is just with, like, the like, epistemic concept of gender and to the extent to which it's mutable to begin with, you know? Because that's the shit they freak out over. I think they only pretend to freak out over the dick stuff because I think they're obsessed with that part, you know? I've had many of my straight friends say they'd rather get with a feminine guy than a hypermuscular girl. I genuinely think that is the case for most straight men. Leaving aside what they prefer most of all, if you just asked for preferences and you found, like, a really femboy and also a very butch masculine lesbian, I think overwhelmingly they would go for the former over the latter. Not always, but often. Though muscular and masculine aren't technically the same thing, right? There are, like, for instance, there are plenty of people who fetishize muscular women, but if you take a look at art that is, like, fetishizing muscular women, even really muscular, like super, super muscular, they still look feminine. Like, their faces are still really feminine. They tend to wear feminine clothes. Like, if you just casually, if you're, like, just browsing through drawn pornography, it's like, oh, well, this person clearly gets off on, like, muscular women. They look, like, still quite womanly. But there are a lot of like, butch lesbian types who get sometimes, like, the evil eye from other girls because they get accused of being guys. I think Contra made that point in one of her videos, that, like, there are some, like, butch lesbian women out there, and I'm saying lesbian, not just butch women, because I don't think women look like this if they're going for men. I think this is a butch lesbian thing, who, you know, like, they'd have to undress before you knew they were women. Like, they have very, very masculine voices and appearances. And I think a lot of straight guys would much rather go for a feminine guy than you know, like, a very butch woman. Which, again, kind of destroys, it just really, like, reinforces the complete immateriality of this entire distinction. Sexuality is a pretty stupid concept to begin with. And, as Andrew Tate points out, a spectrum, which he's correct on. So, you know. So do you think most cis people who are attracted to trans women or trans men but turned off by the vagina, guy, or penis in a girl stems from transphobia? What? No? I'm not talking about transphobia. Wait, Hungamaster, this is what I said. You were the person I called out earlier. This is what I said about At what point did I say genital preferences are transphobic? Pay attention. Oh my god. I gotta check the blue line when I'm mentioned and check to see, is it from Hungamaster, you know? My biggest issue with dicks personally isn't, like, the dick itself, it's that usually the dude it's attached to bugs the living out of me. A ton of straight guys, especially before the modern age where nobody talks to each other, but if you went back to, like, the 90s or 80s or whatever, so many straight guys have stories of doing weird gay shit in male spaces. Whether it's, like, male dormitories or sports communities or, like, college or whatever, or it's like, yeah, what if we were all in a circle, we jerked each other off, you know? And people make jokes about these guys being gay. And the honest truth is, I don't think that's right. I make jokes about it. I do think it's gay. But oftentimes, I just think a lot of them are really stoked to have the opportunity to touch another dick. Because they kind of like dicks. Because, you know, it's literally a sex organ. It's a totem of eroticism, like, in the most literal sense. I don't think it has anything to do with the actual, like, guy or anything. I don't know if that translates to genital preference and sex. Okay, everyone in chat is just sharing their personal feelings and experiences. That's good. Yeah, anyway. Andrew Tate, trans ally. Unironically, you know, obviously he said it in, like, a really misogynist way and he's a rapist and blah, blah, blah. But the underlying argument that he's making here is actually a progressive one. It's progressive by his standards, right? Like, we're talking at a very low ground level. Like, it rises above that. And that perspective is, he says trans women are men. He said that. He said Megan Fox, he. So we're not talking about, like, gender validation or whatever. But we're talking about, like, the fluidity of sexuality. And accepting that is still a step above most of the people who like Andrew Tate.